Hey everyone. Today, we're going to dig into a really critical report that shines a light on a huge problem for school districts, especially those with tight budgets. We're talking about their relationships with IT providers and how schools get locked into these contracts that, well, just don't serve their students, and more importantly, what they can do about it.
All right, let's jump right in. Here's our game plan. First, we'll set the stage with the financial pressure cooker that schools are dealing with. Then, we get to the heart of it, the tech contracts that trap them. After that, we'll look at what a better partnership actually looks like, zoom in on the rural tech divide, and wrap it all up with some clear, actionable next steps.
So, first things first, we have to start with a reality that I'm sure many of you know all too well, the incredible financial pressure on our schools. It's really a perfect storm, right? Revenues are down, demands are up, and what's the first thing to get put on the chopping block? A lot of the time, it's technology. And the numbers, they're pretty staggering. The research from Virtualization Options LLC, which is what this whole explainer is based on, found that a full 2/3 of K-12 school districts are facing major tech budget problems. Just let that sink in for a second. That's the majority of our schools struggling to pay for the tech they absolutely need to function. And when that financial pressure hits, it leads to this huge backlog of necessary upgrades. We're talking about an estimated $2.4 billion in IT projects that have been put on hold. And listen, this isn't just about delaying some new shiny gadgets. This is creating a real technology gap that directly affects a student's ability to learn and, frankly, to compete. Now, this problem, it's not felt equally across the board. A shocking 89% of rural districts are the ones getting hit the hardest. They're dealing with this double whammy of budget cuts on top of already limited resources. This is a super important point, and we are definitely going to circle back to it later. So here's the crucial takeaway. These cuts aren't really savings. What they do is create this whole cascade of hidden costs. You defer maintenance and your systems fail. Your tech gets outdated, and that just opens the door for huge security risks. And at the end of the day, all of it harms student learning.
Okay, so let's get to the real core of the issue. Because when a school's struggling like this, you would think their IT provider would step up and try to help, right? But the report we're looking at highlights this brutal reality. A lot of the time, these incumbent providers have absolutely zero incentive to help. Think about it. They get paid based on the terms of their contract, no matter how much that contract might be hurting a struggling school. This, right here, is the vendor trap.
So how does this trap work? Well, the report calls the mechanism exit barriers. Basically, these are all the obstacles, contractual, technical, you name it, that are built into these deals. They lock a school district into what the report calls a suboptimal relationship, making it incredibly hard and super expensive to switch to someone else, even if the service they're getting is just plain bad. And what's really fascinating here is how all these barriers work together to keep you stuck. You've got these long-term contracts with insane penalties if you want to leave early. Then you've got technical dependencies, where the vendor uses their own proprietary tech that no one else can manage. On top of that, you have the absolute nightmare of trying to migrate all your data, plus all the hidden costs of the transition. You can see why a school district just feels completely trapped. But, and this is a big but, it's not hopeless. There is a way out. It just involves a pretty fundamental shift in how we think about this stuff. It means moving away from just buying tech and moving towards building real strategic partnerships where everybody involved is invested in the student's success. And you can really see the difference between the old way and the new way right here. The traditional model, that's all about huge upfront costs where the school has to take on all the risk. But a strategic partnership, that flips the script. It moves to predictable operating costs and, this is the key, shared risk. Suddenly, the provider's success is tied directly to the school's success. And the report actually lays out some clear strategies to break free. It all starts with planning ahead, and I mean way ahead, long before a contract is up for renewal. It means you've got to negotiate smarter contracts that prioritize flexibility and make sure you can get your data out. It also means building up your own team's expertise and constantly checking the market to see what your other options are. This right here is the power of using objective data. Instead of just listening to a sales pitch, you can use a clear framework to see exactly what's going on. I mean, look at this example. The current provider isn't just performing worse than a potential alternative, they're actually lagging behind the market average. This is the kind of hard evidence that school boards need to make a change. So, if these strategic partnerships are the answer, where's the ultimate test case? Well, let's go back to those rural districts we talked about earlier. This is where all of these challenges are magnified, but it's also where we're seeing some incredible innovation that is really showing everyone the way forward. You see, rural schools, they face this really unique and frustrating set of hurdles. We're talking about limited, unreliable internet, a serious lack of local IT experts to call for help, and they just can't get good pricing because they don't have the economy of scale that a big urban district does. And all of that is piled on top of already super tight buckets. But here's the proof that it can be done. As the superintendent says, finding the right partner, someone who actually gets the rural context, didn't just improve their service, it also cut their costs by a third. That's a total game changer for their students. Now, a huge part of that change is new tech. Things like low Earth orbit satellites, LEO for short. They fly much closer to Earth than the old ones, and they are finally cracking that rural connectivity nut. They deliver the high speed and the reliability that you need for modern learning, leveling the playing field in a way we couldn't even have imagined just a few years ago. And, better internet access is only one piece of the puzzle. The other is using that access more intelligently with things like edge computing. Just think of it like having a mini server right there at the school. It processes data locally instead of sending every little thing to the cloud. And as you can see, the results are huge. The report found this can lead to a 90% improvement in uptime, a 75% reduction in the bandwidth you need, plus massive gains in response time and cost savings. It just makes everything faster and more reliable. So, we've walked through the problem, we've looked at some of the really innovative solutions out there, and that brings us to the most important question of all. What should your district's next move be? So the report's key recommendations really give us a roadmap. It starts with a clear-eyed evaluation of your current provider, using objective data. Then, you have to insist on future-focused contracts that don't lock you in. For smaller districts, working together through regional cooperation can build some serious purchasing power. And of course, if you're in a rural environment, you have to invest in solutions designed for that. And finally, you have to make this a cycle of continuous improvement, not just a one-and-done fix. And so, we'll leave you with this one final, crucial question from the report. I want you to really think about this for your district. Is your IT contract built for your vendor's future or for your students? Because making sure it's the latter is one of the most important investments you can ever make.